.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.
Welcome to another edition of Real Family Talk. Hello. Welcome to another edition of Real Family Talk. This is your host, Jay Real. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday evening. I know I am. It's a little humid in the city tonight, but that's just the way it goes when you live in Orlando sometimes. But we're enjoying ourselves as usual. I hope everybody's having a great evening. We got a bunch of people in the house tonight. We got Jeremy's in the building. How you doing tonight, Jeremy?
I'm good. How y'all doing out there?
Oh, we got Miss McCrae's in the building. How you doing, Miss McCrae?
I'm blessed. Hello, everybody.
Oh, Mr. King is in the building.
All right.
There we go. And we got a guest tonight. Mr. Jason Henry is back in the building, too, as well. How you doing, Jason?
I'm fantastic, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're going to open the show. Miss McCrae has a topic that she wants to talk about here. So go ahead, Miss McCrae. Tell us about that topic.
Really quick, I wanted to speak on something. I know in the Black community right now we're like really sensitive and wanting to make our name heard, our word heard, get our voice out there. But I want to say that not every issue is a racial issue. One story specifically rings true to what I thought was relevant in my life. If you may not know, I am currently on the transplant list for a liver with the Mayo Clinic. And through my screening process, you have to go through, it was a 3-week process. They make sure that you have a family member or a caregiver with you, that you can take your medications, that you're going to follow the rules so that way when you are transplanted, it won't go to waste by you not coming up to the follow-up appointments or doing what you need to do to make sure you have the healthiest life possible. There's a story in Atlanta, a young boy, 15 years old. He is in need of a heart. And originally, the hospital in Atlanta declined him from the program, which is possible when you don't meet the criteria that the doctors put forth. So if you miss appointments, if you miss anything they tell you to do, if you're not taking care of your body up until transplant, they can deny you because there are thousands of people who are willing and waiting for a transplant. And if they feel like you're going to waste this away if you're not taking it seriously enough, then I'm sorry, you don't get that spot. So the family, after the doctors told them that he was denied, the family then took to, it's just a cautionary tale for us not to jump on every issue as a racial issue, understand what the story really is about, and then do your research. And I fault some of the media because it's sensationalized, because immediately what's put on TV is the mother crying, oh, they won't put my son on the list. And then that cuts the story short. And then when you read the story, it's like, wait a minute, this kid wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. So that's why they didn't put you on the list. But everybody's up in arms, passing around, sharing the same video of the mom crying for emotions to raise high, and we're already sensitive right now. I get that. We're sensitive. But whoa, come on, people. Everything is not about race. And that's all. Good luck to him, though. I really hope he takes, because they said his heart issue, if he doesn't have this transplant within 6 months, he will pass away. And I don't want that to happen. But I also want them to realize that this is a serious situation. He needs to understand it. His parents, everybody involved, like it's a life-changing experience for them all. So just everybody, just whoa.
Well, you know, people, we like to, emotions move people, Miss McCrae. So
I know, man.
That's what they do. They put us on with the emotional story and tell us to go run with that. That's how they sell us. It's not the first time. It's not the first time. Miss McCrae won't be the last time. We just coming off that same type of scenario right now.
We're sensitive to it right now.
Definitely.
We're sensitive.
Definitely. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Jason and let him introduce his topic tonight. Go ahead, Jason. What's your topic tonight, bro?
My topic tonight actually deals with Eric Holder and his recent speech in front of the National Bar Association, where in this story, and kind of piggybacking off of what you said about how we can get wrapped up in the emotion of things, and I think we all either know someone personally, have been touched by someone personally who's in jail, prison, state, federal, no matter what it may be, and it may be dealing with a drug offense. And I know for African Americans, the so-called war on drugs and drug offenders and drug offenses, it touches you close because you either have been touched by it personally or you know someone who has been touched by it personally. But I wanted to go into a little bit more detail about his speech, what he said, the memo that he actually sent out to federal prosecutors about mandatory minimums, drug quantity, how they are going to start charging those cases. So if you have a small amount of marijuana on you, you could possibly spend, 10 to 20 years in prison compared to if you have, and I'm sorry, I meant crack, compared to if you had a small amount of cocaine on you. So back in 2010, President Obama signed the Fair Sentencing Act, where the crack to cocaine disparity was reduced from 100 to 1 down to 18 to 1. Still an injustice, still unfair, but it at least, I guess you can say, injects some type of fairness into the system. And going off of that and what Eric Holder said, I wanted to talk to someone who actually has experience in that field, who could give us a little bit more detail about, the intricacies of the speech, what this will actually mean for federal prosecutors, what this will mean for individuals who are currently sitting in prison right now under the old cocaine and crack disparity laws or act, I guess I should say. And he wrote a very prolific and very a good op-ed in the Star Tribune in Minnesota about Eric Holder's speech, what it means for us and what it means for drug offenders sitting in prison right now. So I wanted to talk to him. His name is Professor Mark Osler, and I apologize if I have mispronounced his last name. I'm pretty sure he can correct me if I did. But are you there, Professor?
I am.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned before, I read your op-ed in the Star Tribune, and I honestly thought it was fantastic. I thought what you said and how you broke it down and what it actually means was really important. So in regards to Eric Holder's speech, or Attorney General Holder's speech, and in regards to the memo that he sent out, can you talk about basically what he said in that memo and what that means for federal prosecutors?
Sure. I mean, and just as background, I was assistant U.S. attorney in Detroit. I was part of the problem. I was one of the people that did the crack cases under the 100-to-1 ratio that created this problem. Mm-hmm. And what Eric Holder, what the Attorney General said in his memo, was that prosecutors now have the ability not to charge the qualifying amount in for certain low-level offenders in narcotics cases. Now, the reason that this doesn't matter as much as some people think it does is that prosecutors already had that power under the Safety Valve Act that had already existed for several years in most of those cases. Now, not all of them. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great that Eric Holder recognized that we've got a problem with the way narcotics policy is working. The part of the speech that he gave where he described the problem of over-incarceration and the racial aspects of that, when I read that, I thought I could have written this. It sounded like the critique many of us had for years. But the remedy that he had to this problem, which is giving prosecutors slightly more discretion than they already had, not to charge the harsh mandatory minimums, was pretty disappointing.
Now, in regards to the memo, in regards to what he said, some of the information that I have found is that, of the over 1.3 million state prison inmates, over 225,000 of them are serving time for drug offenses, and of the almost 200,000 or over 200,000 federal inmates, 94,000 were serving drug time for drug offenses. So shouldn't we direct our resources to the state level instead of the federal level?
Sure, and that's what's going to happen if prosecutors start declining cases and not taking some of those low-level cases. then a lot of them will end up in state courts, where people typically get lower sentences.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes a long way towards solving the problem. Now, one of the problems with what Eric Holder did is that he's saying to prosecutors, well, you don't have to charge as harshly as we used to have you do. But you have to remember, he is also in charge of the DEA. And what would have made a bigger difference probably would have been to have directed the drug agents and the task forces that work and are funded by the DOJ to say, don't take those low-level cases at all. Don't take them to the federal prosecutor. Mm-hmm. Send them to the state. There's in some big jurisdictions, they already do that. But in smaller towns, that's not true. I taught for 10 years at Baylor in Waco, Texas, and got to see how prosecution worked there pretty closely. I did some cases as a defense attorney. And there, they took every meth case, no matter how small it was, they took it federal.
Wow.
And, that's how they kept their number of cases up. And, it's going to be very hard to change practices like that.
Now, you also mentioned that this problem is solvable. Basically, if the president simply used his pardon power,
Yep.
do you think that's really politically feasible?
I do. And particularly with the people who are, you mentioned the Fair Sentencing Act, and you gave it one of the best descriptions I've heard anybody in the media give it. It was very accurate. And the Fair Sentencing Act said that those people who were sentenced under the old 100-to-1 ratio, that the 100-to-1 ratio no longer exists. It's been adjusted to 18-to-1. But they didn't make it retroactive. And that means we've got over 5,000 people serving time in prison, almost all of them African American, under the old 100-to-1 ratio that's been rejected by all three branches of government. The court said it was wrong, the administration has said it's wrong, and Congress said it was wrong in the Fair Sentencing Act. We've still got thousands of people serving those sentences. And so what's the political risk that's taken when the president commutes those sentences or shortens them to what they'd have if they were sentenced today? I think it's pretty small because there's already consensus that sentencing scheme is wrong, that it's immoral, and that it has a racist effect. So I've been doing everything I can to urge the president to focus on doing that and having the political will to do so.
Now, I mean, and you've mentioned a couple of things here that I really want to ask you about. Basically, is that the pardon power is politically feasible? Federal prosecutors can simply not charge these cases. Why wouldn't the Attorney General just go ahead and lay out those two things? If he sees the injustices embedded within basically the justice system as to why so many African Americans and minorities are serving time, for minor drug offenses, why don't we just do those two things? So what was the purpose of this speech if it's not going to necessarily make a dent in the U.S. prison population?
Well, here's what I'm hoping. I have faith in this administration. I voted for President Obama, and I still support him. And what I'm hoping is that this speech was the first part of the administration's efforts relating to this. And the second part is going to be to announce that they are going to do a broad mass commutation of the people who are still serving 100-to-1 time. Now, it's not really because that's a presidential initiative. It's not really the Attorney General's place to do that. So I'm hoping that sometime in the next two and a half years, we're going to see President Obama stand up to a podium and talk about that kind of real racial justice coming down. And I am hopeful that that'll happen. I think that it's, I'm hopeful that it's being talked about within the administration. This one speech was, I think, the start of a conversation, not the end of one. And I have that hope.
You and I share the same hope. We really do. I also want to ask you another thing that I could be wrong on, and if I am, I hope that you will correct me. But in regards to the old guidelines, the 100-to-1, from what I've been reading and hearing is that the Supreme Court says that it should be retroactive, that these individuals who are serving time under the old guidelines should be released or should at least have the new 18-to-1 applied to their sentences. From what I understand and from what I've read, the Obama administration is actually fighting against making that retroactive. And also in the case, I think it's U.S. versus Blewett, that it's an example of the Obama administration trying to make sure that these individuals are still sitting behind bars. Is that incorrect?
Well, the Supreme Court hasn't spoken on retroactivity.
Okay.
Now, the Blewett decision's out of the Sixth Circuit,
Mm-hmm.
and a panel of 3 judges decided that since been vacated so that all the judges in the Sixth Circuit can consider it, what they call en banc.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be surprised if that decision holds en banc. Now, in terms of what the administration did in fighting to keep those, not supporting the district court's opinion in Blewett, the panel's opinion in Blewett, maybe that's just not the way they want it to come down, is piecemeal. I mean, what that would do would be give judges discretion to go that way or not, and then you'd end up with really disparate outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
It would depend on where you were, whether you got it or not. It could be that they're holding that aside, and they're going to come up with a more uniform outcome, which is that everybody gets resentenced or gets commuted down to 18-1. That's what I'd hope for.
Gosh, I hope you're right. Because
me too.
I really do. Because, just from what I've read and some of the research that I've done on it, it just seems to me, and again, I could be wrong, and I really and truly hope that I am, that, there is a fight, maybe internally or maybe from the DOJ to actually keep these individuals behind bars. And when I listened to Attorney General Holder speak and, him talk about the disparities in the justice system, I was like, well, I'm kind of scratching my head over what's going on, because I'm hearing this speech and then I'm reading about what the Obama administration is doing. So it's not calculating to me, if that makes any sense.
Yep. So. Yeah. And like I said, it might be that this is going to be a continuing story.
Mm-hmm.
And if we see President Obama step up to the podium and for the first time in his administration say, I want to talk about racial justice and crack sentencing, you give me a call back. I'd be happy to talk to you. We can celebrate that.
That would blow my mind, man. I want to ask you.
Everybody mind.
I want to ask you one last question before
Sure.
before I let you go, and that's there was a recent story on Reuters about the DEA and the NSA and how the NSA actually funnels information, private and personal information, to the DEA, and they use this information for petty criminals and drug offenders, and they actually have to recreate the investigative trail so that how, I guess, the information as to how they receive the initial investigative information isn't actually out in the public. How do you think? Well, the first question is, I'm pretty sure that you're, privy to that information. But the second part of that, how does that actually apply to drug sentences now, drug offenders now, and has that had an adverse effect on the justice system?
Yeah, I think it's a waste of resources to do that.
Mm-hmm.
My own, and this is part of a much bigger piece, but what I think they should do is stop worrying about people and drugs and take the money. That this is a business. I gave a talk to a Dallas Republican Club in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy stood up and said, this is a business. You don't close down a business by sweeping up low-wage labor. And it's probably the first time I ever told a Dallas Republican, man, you are right. He was. And if we want the NSA to do something about drugs, then have them grab the $10 million going back to Mexico or Colombia to shut down that business, as opposed to going after, people who are on the street selling small amounts.
Well, Professor, I definitely thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Sure.
You have been a fantastic resource for me, and I know for others in the studio, but I thank you so much for having this conversation, and I hope that we can possibly call on you again in the future.
Yep, let's make it happen.
Yes.
All right, let's
Thank
do
you,
it. So,
Professor.
Thank you.
Professor, and it's Osler, is that correct?
Osler. You got
Osler,
it.
thank
Yep.
you. So Professor
Okay.
Mark Osler, who is a law professor at the University of St. Thomas out of Minnesota, formerly a federal prosecutor, and was able to give us some really good information on Eric Holder's speech. And I'm looking at Jimmy, and it looks like you got a lot on your mind, man.
Brother.
Oh boy.
I enjoy what the professor had to say, but I do not share his optimism about this particular administration. I don't see it. Let's call Eric Holder's speech what it was. It was a moment to capitalize off of the anger related to the acquittal of George Zimmerman. It was his moment to shine, to say, I'm doing stuff.
You know what? They say that Eric Holder is the black side of President Obama. They say that President Obama isn't black enough, so that Eric Holder, he's bringing this civil rights charges against George Zimmerman. He's talking about racial disparities. You remember his first day as Attorney General in the Department of Justice, he held a meeting and talked about, kind of where he wanted to lead the Department of Justice. And that was trying to correct some of the racial disparities. And President Obama hasn't said anything. So he's supposedly the black side of Obama. But, as it relates to policy, we really haven't seen that much in policy.
Right.
Trying to correct some of those wrongs. And I think that's where the rubber kind of meets the road. We can have a lot of rhetoric. We can have a lot of speeches, which is what we've seen from this administration. And you know what? Not just this administration. It's Bush, it's Clinton, it's Reagan.
It's all of them.
Yeah. And the last president that we've had to have an urban policy to actually impact minority communities was President Carter back in 1979. So we're talking about, post 30 years where we've actually had someone to actually attack some of the disparities in this nation.
And the current administration is very good at making speeches and rallying people up.
Okay.
They do
that's enough.
They do an excellent job
Really?
at doing all of that. But there is no, after the speech, that's where it pretty much ends. They had a speech, and it ends there. I think the last thing you can almost hold on to is when he had his big press conference when they opened up but it's like a minority education position, which is like one of those jobs that people get and they just collect a check and they get their name on a desk. But beyond that, let's be honest, man. They haven't done anything to significantly affect the black community. And hey, I know it's not his job. I got you. But I mean, he hasn't done it. And I don't see him doing it in the future. I mean, this idea of him pardoning people, and kind of reducing their sentences down to that 18-1. We know. This would be the time to do it because obviously it doesn't matter what he does. Right. He's not up for re-election. It can only cement what he does after he gets out of office. So this would be the perfect opportunity for him to do something like that.
I think, we can compare him to Clinton. Clinton said that, he has a great regret about his administration and his time in the White House was that he didn't do enough to reduce the crack to cocaine disparity. And he said he's going to, spend every waking hour trying to correct that wrong. And that's fantastic to say once you're done. Right. But that doesn't help the individuals that you could have assisted while you were in office. And
it's a little too late, Clinton.
Yeah, same. I mean, and the same may be said for President Obama. I understand that, he faces challenges being the first black man in the White House. I absolutely get that. But on the other side of that, when it comes to policy, we just have not seen some of the things that I would have liked to see, and I'm sure you would have liked to have seen from this president. And it's politically expedient, I guess you can say, to try to blame the other side. And I'm not saying that Republicans are blameless in this. They are not. I think that they are absolutely horrible. Yes. They are much worse than those sitting on the other side of the aisle. But when it comes to
you're talking about Jimmy's people.
I don't know.
But when it comes to policy, both sides. I mean, both sides. We can just make this a big, huge pot. Both sides have not done anything to address racial disparities in this, especially when it comes to unemployment.
Equal blame for everybody.
Absolutely. But when it comes to leadership, when it comes to the person who's actually head of the federal government or the face of United States politics, we just have not seen enough from him, in my opinion, as it relates to policy and how we can actually impact minority communities in this nation.
Like I said, I've said this before. The greatest thing that the president can do is spearhead compromise. And that's one thing that this president cannot do. He cannot spearhead compromise, which to me is his failure as a leader.
I don't think anybody can spearhead
really,
compromise.
I don't think
it's out there, but it all depends on how you bring it.
They are purposely going to not do anything that he wants them to do. Yeah. Purposely, just because. Oh, you want to do this? You want to turn the sky green? No, we're not going to do it. It's going to benefit the people. No, we're not going to do it.
It's not that deep, man.
It is that deep. And
because the president hasn't compromised himself, so he can't criticize others for not compromising.
I think the president has compromised. The only problem is he's compromised progressive ideals and values. When it came to the debt ceiling, he was the one who put Social Security on the table. When it came to trying to negotiate, a grand bargain on taxes, he was the one who put Medicaid and Medicare on the table. So he has compromised, but unfortunately, it's been to the detriment of those who actually hold his same political political ideology, I guess you can say. So when it comes to compromise, I don't think anybody can compromise in this political environment because it's so toxic. But we've just seen over and over again, some of the things that are, kind of hold almost as a bedrock to Democrats and to those on the left and to progressives. We've seen him kind of push them forward to try to compromise, but he hasn't pulled them back. That's the only problem that I have with it. So if you want to compromise, that's fine. You can say that I'm willing to negotiate these things, but once you actually go to the table and the other side isn't compromising to you as you would like, you aren't pulling these things back. Pull Social Security back. That does not need to be cut. It's solvent. Pull Medicaid, pull Medicare back. These programs that are absolutely going to impact minorities, older individuals, young adults, making sure that we keep these programs intact so that, we aren't having more problems down the road.
We'll see, brother. Like I said, y'all are a whole lot more optimistic than me.
I am.
I
I like what the professor had to say.
This is about to be, what do we got, 2 more years?
2 years.
3 more years.
He's been in office 55 months.
And we got to have 2 to 3 more years of the same old, him claiming on one side what they aren't doing, them on the other side what he ain't doing. And I don't think in 2016 much is going to change in terms of the Congress and the makeup of Congress. So we'll pretty much be right where we are today. And he'll ride out his last few days in office making a bunch of executive decisions that he is not authorized to make.
Oh my God.
Oh, Jimmy.
And and the other part of that is that this may be put on the back burner because Egypt is erupting, Syria has erupted. There's so much going on the other side of the world. He has this crackdown on journalists that are going on for Glenn Greenwald and other aspects of American diplomacy, if you want to call it, this new Cold War with Russia. So I don't think this is technically in the front part of his brain, so to speak.
It is. I mean, like with this crisis in Egypt right now, who knows what's going to happen with that? And I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we send some kind of military help over there in some shape or form or
supposedly
fashion.
It's already in the works. So
right.
There you go.
Can I just say that my bucket list is now ruined? Like, I always wanted to go to Egypt. Like, that was just one of my dreams.
You just can't go to Cairo.
No,
I don't
want to go nowhere near.
I don't blame you.
Not at all. Every time I'm watching the news, I'm like, man, that's on my bucket list. I'll just go ahead and take it off.
Well,
you can take it off for right now.
5-10 years, I'm sure you'll be back. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's going to be a minute.
Maybe a little longer.
You just go ahead and pick up a history book, folks, because we're not going.
You always go to Google Earth.
Yeah, look at it from the sky.
You can compromise. You can
look at the pyramids.
You can go to another African country.
Yeah, that's what we'll have to do. But man, I'm like really hurt about that.
Yeah, it is what it is. Until they can figure out their own internal frustrations, most of those countries will stay in turmoil, and then we need to stay out of their business. That's another problem.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Right.
We need to stay out of their business, but
I don't think you can. But
we should, brother. Save us a few $1 billion a year.
Like the military aid that's supposedly been cut off to Egypt, that actually goes toward adding security to the consulate in Egypt and other things. But it is what it is, I guess you can say, because we're not, that's the role of America, is that we stick our nose in everything. So, especially if it serves our interest.
Yes, we do. That's what we do, man. We are the police.
The world's police, right?
The world's police, man. Man, thank you, Jason, for coming by, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. I
always love
appreciate
having
hanging
you
with
here,
y'all.
brother.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. Anytime you want to join the conversations, that is the number to call. A couple of news stories we want to highlight as we write out the rest of the half of the show here. The Dream Defenders, as you know, the Dream Defenders have been in the state capitol protesting and demanding Rick Scott to hold hearings on the Stand Your Ground law. Of course, Rick Scott, the governor of the state of Florida, he refused, still refuses to hold those hearings. But they have left. About 4 days ago, they actually did leave the state capitol. They left. What happened is the governor did agree to have the hearings, but one of the House of Representatives of the Florida House actually did say that we would have some hearings on that in the next legislative session. So we'll see what happens. I take the not very optimistic about that either. I think again, when people will say what they need to say to make themselves look good, and when the fire's when the fire's blazing, if you will. But I think when it all comes down to it, stand your ground is going to be just that, stand your ground. And nobody's going to change that law. It's going to be what it is, and we're just going to have to get used to it, brother. That's what I think is going to happen with stand your ground. But good luck to you, man. Y'all keep fighting. I know Al Sharpton is having his 50-year anniversary of the Martin Luther King walk at the end of the month, and that's one of the issues that he's standing in the gap for, along with other things. Yeah, you're laughing at me, Mr. King. That's what he is. He's standing in the gap for those and other things as well. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But y'all agree with me? Stand your ground. You're not going anywhere. It's going to be on the books as is. Let it go. Find the next topic. What you think?
I don't think it was anything ever wrong with the law, like I said.
There it is.
So it's definitely not going anywhere. I don't think it's going anywhere. Yeah. Florida going to stand its ground.
Florida going to stand its ground. Definitely, brother. Hey, man, but, hey, shout out to the people, man. Let the people do what they do, man.
That's what make them feel good?
That's what make them feel. Hey, put smiles on people's faces, right? We like smiles. We like smiles.
Smiles and speeches.
They already giving out too much money to repeal that law.
There you go. There you go.
No matter who you elect in office, it's going to sound good till they get up there.
There you go. And the money talks. And the people that are protesting, I haven't seen the dollars and the cents come in yet. But the protesting speeches sound really, really good. 407-894-1680.
Don't do that.
407-894-1680 is the number. Mr. McCray, I'm telling the truth. Mr. McCray, I'm just speaking the truth. I see we have a caller on the line. How you doing tonight, caller?
All right, just fine, thank you.
Tell me your name, sir.
I totally agree that the stand your ground law is not going to be anything that we could do with it. And it's unfortunate, but, that's just one of those issues to where, the political system, have something, and, the Congress and the legislature, and it's going to be a law whether we like it or not. So we just going to have to deal with it, and the Trayvon Martin case just highlighted a way that it could be used in a derogatory way, in a sense, because no matter what happened in that case, all the things, even though unproven, it was implicit what happened. But like we say, that's the political system. We're going to have to deal with it, and, because we'll never get that law changed as it now is written on the books, because nothing could change it but the legislature itself.
I agree with you, Minister Brown. I appreciate your call tonight. We are on the same page, brother.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, yeah. Like I said, I just don't think there's enough people that are going to actually affect change on board to change this law. I mean, as Miss Bernie came through, Jasmine Bernie came through last week, told us all the sheriffs, except with, we don't know what Sheriff Jerry Demings voted, but she did say all the sheriffs voted to keep the law in place, the stand your ground law in place. They didn't see any problems with it, and then of course the governor is on board with it. We had a panel, a task force that was created that was on board with it, and most legislators in the House, Florida House and Senate, are pretty much on board with it as well. So it's not going anywhere. So find the next topic is what I say. But I'll move on. Some other things that are happening out there in the news. This past weekend, of course, the Butler came out, the movie that was starring Oprah Winfrey and Forrest Whitaker. Again, the movie was about a black man who was a butler in the White House for a number of years, over 20 years, and kind of portrayed, based on a book that was written, portrayed his life in film. And to my surprise, it was actually the #1 movie over the weekend.
Of course.
Slaps.
Oprah. What else?
Yeah, that's the
That's
word.
all you need is Oprah.
It actually was a really good movie.
I mean, yeah, it might have been a good movie,
It's a
but
really good movie.
with Oprah in it, you got everybody going to see it. That's all I know. That's great marketing.
Is that all it takes?
That's all it takes. Oprah's in it? Oh, yeah, we got to go see
I was
that.
listening to another
I
radio
mean-
show yesterday morning. They were saying that I guess one of the texters at their show said they went to a theater in I don't know, some part of Mississippi, and the audience was actually 70% white and 30% black.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, that's where the 25 come from. You know.
Is that where the 25 comes from?
We probably brought a strong 10.
We went to go see it, but
We
my
did.
theater, I went on Friday in the middle of the day though, but I think I was the only person of color in there.
And you know they went to see Oprah. They didn't go see Forrest.
They like Forrest.
They do?
They like Forrest.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But not everything
do.
that Oprah touches is gold. I mean,
No, not everything.
Beloved bomb.
Beloved Bomb. That's
This
true.
was actually an excellent film.
I think it was just a great story.
Yeah.
And I think people went out to see the story as well. Of course, as usual, when you make these types of films, there was some backlash about the making of this film, because here we go, we have another black film that is describing us as being, as it kind of quoted, meek and mild-mannered, as one particular article I read, and sort of criticizing the same way that they did The Help when The Help was made a few years ago. And we don't need this type of black film out there in today's day and age. We need something a little bit more positive, a little bit more upbeat, showing the black man being a stronger person than he actually is. And to me, those kinds of arguments just don't make any sense to me.
Wasn't that Django?
Me neither.
They got mad at Django because that's what he was doing in Django.
Well, they got mad at Django because Django was written by a white man.
Oh, my bad.
That was the problem with Django.
That was a problem with Django. Now, if it would have been a black man that wrote the black superhero back in those days, it would have been A-okay.
It might have been okay. I mean, but here, this film is, it was directed by Lee Daniels, the same guy who is a black guy who directed and wrote the movie Precious a few years back. So, I mean, you have a film that's basically being controlled by blacks, and yet we still have a problem with it. I think one of the problems that we have in black film today is that we don't have enough, kind of real stories being told. We always have these kind of rip-offs or fake comedies, where they kind of just put a bunch of random comedic scenes that you've seen before together and make some comedy rather than real stories. I think we're lacking that in the black film genre, period. So while anybody would be upset that they make a movie about a true story at that,
Right.
I mean, we're not talking about some
They didn't make it,
fictional
that's why.
character. We're talking about a real black man who actually spent over 20 years in the White House. And obviously they didn't reveal all the secrets that he was a privy to in his time there, but just the story of how he progressed from nothing, really, because he was, I think if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he come from like born on a slave or a plantation?
Sharecropper.
Sharecropper. So a sharecropper who worked his way through life and then became a butler in the White House. And while you say, well, that's not that big of a job or whatever the case may be, but actually it is, because your job is to now take care of the president and his family, which is a big deal. That's a big deal. That's something that you can kind of hang your hat on, because it's not everybody that does that. It's not going to make you rich. You're right. It's not going to make you rich. But it is an important job, being that the president is one of the most esteemed positions in our particular country. And so for that, it is something. It is something to hang your hat on. Mr. King's looking at me like I wouldn't hang my hat on.
No, I would
that.
not at all, because I'm with them. It's like, so you're showing this black man that's just, serving all these white people. I'm sorry, but even though that's how it was, that's what happened, that's how it was back in the day, no. I don't want to see that movie.
That's how it is today,
It
bro.
wasn't
I don't wanna see
back
that.
in the day, but he
They
retired
still
in the
got it.
early 80s. That wasn't
I
that long.
feel you, and I understand that. I'm just not that person to go see the movie. I'm not saying don't go see it. I'm not saying it's not a good movie. I'm not saying it won't touch somebody. I'm saying my personality, nah, I'm a pass on that one. That's all I'm gonna say. What Idris Elba movie at? I need some action. I don't need to see the black butler kissing the president's butt and taking care of his family and washing his hand drawers. I'm straight on that. I don't need to see you washing the president like he draws. I'm good.
Okay. In the film, it talks about, it kind of speaks to that. It's like, okay, you can look at it from a standpoint of, oh, you're serving the man, but it's about dignity. It's about your work ethic. And that resonated throughout the community as black people as a whole. Because, I mean, we have changed as a people as far as our appearance, taking care of property and work ethic as a whole. But when you talk about the stories that we tell, I think I am a little weary of these stories, although I will still go support it. It's not the only story that we have to tell.
Right.
And I think that's where the frustration comes from. The only images of blacks, either the slave story that we have, also 12 Year Slave is coming out in October, so be ready for that.
Yes.
Here's
a really good film, too.
And that's going to be another good one as well. But dang, really? Another slave movie? And then it goes to the other extreme where it's the gangster, the thug, the jail cell. It's like there's so many stories in the black experience. It's just unfortunate that these two extremes are the only ones that continue to be told with sprinkles of how it is, Cosby type.
A lot of
realities.
it boils down to, we have to take these stories and these films to white owned companies like Universal and all these studios. We can only take it to certain studios, and they're not going to pick it up unless it's something that they feel like is going to make some money. So, and that's really what it boils down to. Mm-hmm. They won't pick up these movies that show and portray us in these different type of lights.
You don't have to anymore. That's what the film festival is for. It's no different than independent music artists. You just got to grind, You can't expect them to say, oh, it's a good story. The first thing they'll say is how am I going to make money off of it? But that's what the business they're in. If you're just in the business of making good movies, you got to grind. And that's what the film festivals are for. That's how Precious got picked up. That's how a lot of films get picked up. Yeah, that's how Fruitvale, that's how a lot of stuff get picked up. And even now, follow Spike. That man got a history. What he did some crowdfunding and got the budget for his movie.
Right.
Obviously you probably don't have, an independent guy don't have a name, so not going to be able to raise $1 million, but I'm sure $1,000 to an independent filmmaker is a lot of money,
Right.
So it's like it's just a grind, it just goes back to old saying, you can't wait on somebody else to make your success. You just got to go out there and get it at the best you can.
Exactly. Which I think Spike Lee, in what he did with Kickstarter, and raising the funds off of Kickstarter for his next film, is just a great example of how here's a man that has done films for over 30 years, and successful films at that. Worked with the big studios, did the independent thing, and 30 years later, he's still grinding on the independent level, because he understands that he can't necessarily go to the studio and make the film that he wants. So he says, no problem. I'll grind it out, and I'll grind it out my way, and I'll make the film I want. And then once I make it, I'll let you get in on it, because you will want to get in on it once you see it, but you're not going to, they may not necessarily put those upfront funds to maybe get it together. And so, and that I think that's the one thing that I continue to say that we can do better in the black community. We have way too many actresses and actors out there that are doing very well for themselves, for us not to be able to put together projects ourselves and then independently release our own films, and stop complaining about how the big guys aren't doing it.
But we got to go out and support them. I mean, that's a lot of things.
That we do.
We really don't hear about a lot of the movies from the film festivals unless you go to the film festival, unless you go out and look for those movies. But, we just don't know where to go and find them at besides Netflix. If it's not on Netflix, most of the time some people won't see it.
But, hey, that's what Facebook for. That's what Twitter for. That's what any site, well, I don't know, it's like 8 million of them now, so I don't know all the names. But that's what all of them, that's what they for. It's like, hey, you can probably reach more people sitting at home on your computer in 8 hours on Facebook and all the social media networks than you can passing out flyers or knocking on doors or whatever. That's what it's for. You got to use it.
You gotta use technology.
You got to.
Gotta use technology. That's
You want to take the power out their hands, you have to use the stuff that's free.
exactly. Exactly.
But then they'll come to you. And guess what? Then you end up making more money because you're in a better position to negotiate.
Yeah, it sounds good.
No, it don't sound good. It is good.
It
Ask
is
Master
good.
P.
Where Master P at?
He still got money.
I mean, you know, of
Okay,
course.
that's all I'm trying to say.
But you know, they picked up Master P because he was doing what they wanted him to do, which was kill his own people through music. So he was like, "Well, you know what? Let's go to Master P because he's the next one to do
the
it."
point is, the man had a grind. He started out on his own.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're talking about.
I mean, anybody can do that grind. I see a lot of them doing it.
And they doing it now.
They're doing it now.
They're doing it now.
And
because I understand he wasn't the first through the door, but he kind of busted it open.
He busted it open. And also you mentioned Master P. The places that he took that grind, most people have not done that. The average person has not done that. He is still unique. I mean, how many people can say they have a distribution deal or had a distribution deal through Walmart? You know, count them. One hand. You know what I'm saying? 2 fingers. You know what I'm saying? That's what it takes. So, I mean, you know, I can't criticize nothing about his grind. I mean, you don't have to like the music, but you got to respect the grind. And the grind was there, and he's still doing it. Unfortunately, he has traveled back to his old ways, but I guess that happens. But
what is he doing? I haven't heard anything about it.
He got some new album.
He makes music again.
No.
But it's like make him say type of stuff. So.
He need to
say,
go back to Nickelodeon.
Yeah, he's still making music.
Go back to
That was the
Nickelodeon.
jam back in the
Okay.
day. No, I don't want him to rap. Have a seat, Master P.
Yes. Sit down.
Have a seat, man.
Let
Have
Romeo
several
do
per
his
seat.
thing.
After you close the Walmart deal, man, it's a wrap after that. It should be because the bank account is now solid. It's
Little
Walmart,
Romeo.
baby.
Isn't he in school?
Walmart,
playing
but
football?
huh?
Isn't he in school playing football, Little Romeo?
No, I think he's out of school
He
now.
was playing basketball at USC.
He was playing basketball,
Basketball?
but yeah, I
Okay.
think he's out of school.
I think he only got there because they wanted DeMar DeRozan there, but that's a whole nother story.
Okay. Well,
But yeah, he's not playing basketball anymore. He's back into the music game as well, and I think he's modeling or something like that too. So
New No Limit.
yeah, the new low limit. That's right.
wow.
You know, hey, everybody goes back to their grind eventually, right? But yeah, man, we'll keep it moving here. But yeah, like I said, you got Spike Lee, man. I was going to talk about that too. It was amazing how he came through and raised over he was looking for $1.25 million. And I think the last check I saw was over $1.3 million. So that was pretty cool, man. We'll see what's his next film. Love Spike Lee. Spike Lee always does a real good job with films, man. Malcolm X still a classic. Still a classic.
Hey,
Don't you think so,
most
Mr.
of his
Mr.
movies
King?
are classics.
So yeah,
He
exactly.
does
Do the
that-
right thing. Classic.
He does that thing where he mounts the camera and it's like the camera is pulling the actor or whatever on their face. It's his signature move. Watch
Yes.
any Spike Lee
Yeah,
film,
he hit and
and you know that camera
coming.
trick that he does is coming at some point in the
and-
film.
and not like even just the way his lighting is similar.
Yeah.
You know, like even to do the right thing, even if it was dusk, but it was just the way it was shot. And same thing with School Days. School Days was like kind of hazy on purpose,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
Spike, man.
Yeah.
Go see The Butler, though, folks.
Oh,
Go
Lord.
see The Butler. I mean, you just
Please.
said we have to support. You need to go support.
I'm not saying that not to go see it. I'm just saying I won't go see it. That's all that I'm saying. I'm not telling you not to go see it. You go see it and you tell me about it. But I ain't gonna know nothing about it until they come on TV because I'm not trying to go see that movie. I need to see. I went to saw Django because it was the closest to a black superhero that we've had. And I don't know how long. I want to see a black superhero. I need to see a Static Shock. I need to see something positive with black people that black people can relate to. Because like I said, Green Lantern was black. I was looking forward to having a black Green Lantern, and they took that from us. So I'm very yes.
Yeah, one of the Green Lanterns is black.
He's
I don't
black
know
in the
anything
comic
about
view.
Well, Jamie Foxx, he's gonna be some character. I don't know if he's a good character or not. But in the
I
new
think he's
Superman.
a villain in
I
there.
think he's a
Okay,
villain.
well there it is.
In the new Spider-Man movie,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a villain. He's a villain. Spider-Man is trying
well,
to
we
stop
got
him from doing
Storm.
something.
Storm doesn't count. No.
I give you Storm and
Storm.
Catwoman.
No, don't count Catwoman.
She was looking.
Halle Berry did a very good job in Catwoman.
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
She was
you
looking
just
nice.
Love
Did a
you
very
some
good job.
Halle Berry.
Let's say the wardrobe was exceptional. Let's
Yes,
just
it
say
was.
that.
Yes, it
Alright.
was.
But the movie, The only movie I've ever fell asleep in.
She did an exceptional job.
Okay. Your love for Halle Berry. We know.
Halle Berry's awesome. But we'll move on.
Oh my God.
Just a couple quick last comments, man. Did y'all hear Duck Dynasty had the highest rating ever for a cable TV show? When they premiered last week, did you over like 13 million people?
Yeah, like 11.1 million people.
Duck Dynasty
Watched these country bumpkins.
What do they do in that show anyway?
Well, first of all, they're millionaires.
I mean, they're millionaires, but they still are country bumpkins.
Talk about grinding.
What do they do in that show anyway? I still don't understand.
Live their life.
You just living life, but how they make money? I believe.
In the country.
I believe they Well, obviously they're duck hunters. I think it's some kind of duck call or whistle or something that they invented or something, and that's how they make their fortune.
And they just make them in the back shed. Mm-hmm. And it's an uncle. I've watched maybe 2 or 3 episodes, and I was like, I can't do it. But it's funny. It is. They are country bumpkins, but they are multimillionaires at that. Yeah. Filthy rich, and you wouldn't know.
You ain't even know it.
You ain't even know it.
Wow, I just don't understand. What do we? It's so.
You got to think.
What are we doing with
the
population
population
these days?
is not black people.
What are we doing with television these days?
Watching people's lives for some reason. That's entertaining to us.
People like to people watch. I'm a people watcher.
Yeah,
I enjoy going to the bus stop and people watching. It's fun.
Now I would say this: something like Duck Dynasty, I don't have a problem with that show because they being themselves. It's not. You know what I'm saying? It's not like
it's not scripted.
Right, exactly.
But you see, you look at the black people reality shows, Love and Hip Hop, R&B divas, all that is scripted to make them look horrible. Do you notice that? White people reality shows
script that stuff to make them look like
well, in Love and Hip Hop they script.
Obviously they go do a lot of cutting, but let's be real. Some of them just ignorant.
Well, some of them they make you, if you want to be, like take Jocelyn and what's the other one?
You want to go to that next level, get that attention.
If you want to get that attention, you got to do something stupid.
Yeah.
And so they tell you to act stupid, but like you say on the country people,
Duck Dynasty,
they just being themselves. And that's what I respect
and
about that.
Just is country bumpkins and crazy.
You don't see them acting this ignorant, though.
No, they're not fighting and cussing each other out, but they're definitely
ignorant,
not like your high class, what you would think.
But if they kids look at the show, they can be like, well, yeah, that's my daddy. But, you got these on Love and Hip Hop. They kids look at that show, they can be like, that was my mama?
Yeah, it's bad.
My mama was acting like that on national TV?
Yeah.
I'm definitely over. If I get one more of my R&B favorites, and I'm not even a fan of Kelly Price, but I've been watching this season of R&B Divas, and I'm like, really? I don't want no more of this. No more. Just sing. All I want you to do is sing. Don't get no more radio. No radio appearances. No, just sing. No reality shows. Just sing. I don't want to know your bitch. Just sing a song. Put out a record.
That's one thing I can respect about Lala. In her reality show, she is not about drama. I think she has the drama edited out of her show, so it won't even seem like she has a drama-filled life.
I'm sure she probably does too.
Yeah, she has to, because her show is cleanest African American black reality show that I've ever seen.
And T.I. T.I. is real.
Okay,
family.
You're right about that.
They are adorable.
Got to give it to T.I. family.
They are
hustle.
adorable.
Yeah.
Clifford.
I just seen that one the other week. He was following his daughter.
Yeah. I like that.
Yes, sir.
I like that.
Yeah. And he did what it's TV, so he had to go to the extra level and try to, make it do a little more than what a regular father would do. But that's what a father would want to do. Yeah. Let me take my other son, and we just gonna follow y'all around with some spy equipment to see what y'all saying. Hold on, that's just a friend. That was a little more than a friendly hug, And that's what I do respect T.I. Grand Hustle show. I do like that one.
He's well done. I love how he shows his family side, his being just a human being, a man, a black man. His hustle is rapping, and he says some filthy stuff. But
don't go back to that. Don't go back to that. Don't go back to talking about how you got all these women and you're doing this and that. And then when I go on Channel 72, I see you with all your kids.
Right.
Like, what?
But there's been an evolution with his music. I don't know if you've paid attention from when he was Tip to T.I. to who he is now. There is an evolution a little bit.
I heard him on Robin Thicke saying, don't get it confused. It's pimping.
It's an aging evolution, I would say. Nah,
yeah.
He's not so
it's sort of
fiery.
It's sort of like a Snoop Dogg
quick
evolution.
tempered.
Snoop.
It's like a Snoop Dogg.
As
album.
he
He's
was
Snoop
in
Lion.
early
Get it?
20s.
Sorry.
I was
That's a whole nother.
I hate him.
He still does. The music is still not as grown up as you might think a 40-something-year-old man would do, but it is a little bit better than what he started with. We'll say that.
Jay need to have a seat too.
Man, he should have been had 20 seats.
Jay,
Okay,
you about to be 45.
you are not
brother.
Michael Jordan. Don't
I
try
mean-
to come out of retirement. What?
My thing. Well,
Don't say it. Just end it, man. Jay-Z
Why-
retired, bro.
well, why if he keep making money? I mean, ain't that the point?
But I'm
It
saying
is.
though,
I mean, he's
dude,
steady making money. He
He's
outselling all these little young
He has
cats.
other venues now to make
If
the
this is-
same amount of
He
money.
You
he
are
does,
a
but see,
grown
with him
Even more.
continually
man.
expressing himself, it just keep adding on
You
to the hustle.
are a
He can go do
grown
more
man.
if you can go do a tour at 50 and come home with $20-30 million, when you go do it?
No, I'm gonna do something else with my life because when I was a child, I did childish things. When I became a man, I put them
Well,
childish things away.
He was a man when he started,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
he was a young, immature
And
person.
He was
what's
still
the
a man.
difference?
He
What's
was
the
26.
difference in
and him and the
that
Stones,
and Aerosmith and the Rolling Stones?
Stones, and
They're doing their
Metallica
older songs.
and
They
the
ain't
Bee
dropping
Gees.
no new
Yeah,
albums.
they ain't dropping new
They ain't
albums.
dropping new albums.
that's
Rolling
because
Stones.
talent doesn't allow them to do that.
They talking about.
Is that Jay fault that he can still make me?
I mean, if that's what you call it, but he's not saying anything different.
But
He
they're
is
not-
saying the same
Here's the difference.
message.
They're not doing new songs at 70. At 70, you're right. They're touring their old songs. But at 50, they were doing new songs. And the Stones, I think the Stones just put out a new album. So I mean, they're
Wasn't it
still
a
doing.
compilation album? Or
They're still doing
original
music.
And they can probably go
It's probably a mixture.
find them lost tapes and put out another 20 albums.
I
All of a
guess.
sudden, they probably gonna record
music,
it.
you know.
But don't be talking about, well, I feel this is my best album ever. Because no, dude, you said that last album and the album before that. Every
Called
album
promotion.
you come out is
You
this,
should know that.
This is your best album ever because now that I'm 49, I feel that I've experienced life enough to rap about it to the 16-year-old kids. Like, really?
My Maybach is better.
My
That's
wife.
That's the one place I fault all of them is that I think you should at least grow your conversation. You know, you should grow your conversation, and that's where I fault rappers because at 40, at 45, they don't grow their conversation. Their conversation is the same thing it was when they were 20. And that's where I fault them. I don't really have a problem. They can do what they do in making music because music is universal. There's no age on how old you should be to make music, but your conversation should grow, and that's where they fault. They don't grow their conversations, and that's where they fail. And maybe that's what you're talking about. He needs to grow his conversation. Because at 45, you got to talk about a little bit more than money, cars, and
That's
girls.
his life, though. I mean, that's
It
what
is not his
That's
life.
all he does.
His
Sorry,
life,
life.
his life
It's
is
his
his
life.
wife and his little girl. That's
Thank
his
you.
life. Thank you for listening. This is Real Family Talk. This is your host signing off, Jay Real. We'll see you next week, 9 p.m. You can follow us on Facebook, Real Family Talk. You can follow us on Twitter, Real Family Talk. The website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.